Hey, let's talk about makeup today. No, we didn't have a fight. I'm talking about makeup air, of course, a concept most people don't know anything about. But you're going to hear about it today. So come join me to hear about makeup air and find out how it affects you. Hey, welcome back to Wheat Beat. My name is Mike, and last time we talked about connecting my giant hood to the duct and fan up on the roof. Please click that link up above if you want to get caught up on that episode. And just as a reminder, I am building a commercial grade bakery right inside my house. And if you want to come along for the entire ride from the beginning, you can click this link instead to hear the whole story from the beginning. But today we're talking about makeup air. Makeup air is something I didn't know anything about when I first started this project. And it turns out it starts with the exhaust fans. You know, you have an exhaust fan like in your bathroom or your kitchen. They're generally pretty small. Like the one in your bathroom maybe pushes out maybe 100 cubic feet per minute, which isn't considered very much. The one in your kitchen maybe a little bit bigger, 500 cubic feet per minute, maybe a little bit more, but something along that range. Now, we don't really worry about that at all because as the air is getting pushed out of your exhaust fan, new air is coming in from somewhere else. If you have the windows and the doors closed, it's still not a problem because you have little cracks and crevices like in your floorboards or even the light switch of your house has little gaps in it, and air can come in and make up for the air that's going out of your exhaust fan. Now, even in homes that are constructed with modern techniques where they're sealed pretty tight, there are still some imperfections. It's not a hermetic seal. So what happens when the exhaust fan pushes out a lot more air, where there's not enough cracks or crevices to really make up for all of that air going out of the hood? Now here I'm going to take a 1-gallon plastic container like this, and we're going to just pretend this is your house. And this pipe up above is the duct from which the exhaust ejects air. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little knife here and I am going to make a couple of little slits basically in this to simulate what cracks and crevices in your home would be like. Before I do that, actually, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration assuming that your home was hermetically sealed. Let's see what happens. So you can see what happened was that when I pulled air from here, it just collapsed the container because it created a negative pressure inside. So now I'm going to make those cuts to simulate what would happen if there was some little imperfections in your house, like the cracks and crevices that do exist in every home. Okay, so now I've made a couple of those cuts in here and we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure on here like I would if you had a weak exhaust fan like your bathroom fan in your kitchen hood. So you can see that I was pulling some air and you could hear the hissing. Basically, a little bit of the air that I was pulling out of the top was coming in through these little cracks and crevices. And there was no negative pressure and the container stayed the same size. Now what happens if the exhaust hood is much, much stronger than what I did? Like in my case, where the exhaust hood is not pushing out a few hundred cubic feet per minute, it's pushing out a few thousand cubic feet per minute. In my case, about 4,000 cubic feet per minute. What happens in that case if all you have to rely on is a few cracks and crevices? Uh-oh. So this thing did collapse when I did that. So these cracks and crevices were not enough to make up for the much higher volume of air that was coming out of the exhaust. So why is this important? The reason this is important is because if you don't have anything allowing fresh air to come in to make up for the negative pressure created by a strong exhaust fan like mine, you end up having to pull air from somewhere else. And that somewhere else could be a gas line. So for example, you have a gas line for your water heater, for your gas stovetop, for your fireplace. If you create a negative pressure inside of your home, it's going to start to pull gas into your living space, and that could potentially create a carbon monoxide poisoning situation or a fire hazard or something else. You really don't want negative pressure inside your home like that. So this is why building codes in most jurisdictions mandate that you have a makeup air system if your fans exceed a certain cubic feet per minute amount. In some jurisdictions it's 650, in others it's higher, in some it's lower. In businesses usually the criteria are a little bit more strict. But suffice it to say, this is where a makeup air system comes in. So how does a makeup system air work? Basically, instead of relying on cracks or crevices or somebody opening a window, you actually have a duct that connects to the outside of the house or business, and it has a damper, which is basically like a paddle that opens and closes that allows air to come in or not. It's essentially like you turning on your exhaust fan and then yelling across the room, "Hey Joe, can you open up the window in the dining room?" And he does. And that's all really makeup air does, is it just opens like a window basically every time you flip the switch on your exhaust hood. So here's my 1 gallon container again, the same one I made all those cracks and crevices in. Now this time I'm going to make a significantly bigger hole, like a window. Okay, so now we have a significantly bigger hole that you can see here. Now my finger is going to be the damper, and I'm just going to place it over the hole. Now if I just go and pull air here, see, it collapses again. But if my finger is connected to a wire that tells it to open every time the exhaust fan turns on, the whole story changes. See, no matter how much I pull air out of the container, it doesn't collapse. No negative pressure is created inside because all of the air that needs to balance inside comes from this hole here. And now that no negative pressure is created, your space is safe. So you see this brown wire here. This is the wire that actually gets connected to the fan switch. And it actuates that damper, kind of like my finger, that opens and closes every time you turn your fan on. Here's the ductwork for the makeup air itself. And here's what it looks like outside, where that fresh air comes in to make up the air pushed out by the hood fan. Now some hoods actually have a makeup air system built into them, and that's kind of cool, especially if you're retrofitting and you don't want to have new ductwork laid inside of your attic spaces. They also have some fancy systems that heat or cool the makeup air that comes in. Some even filter it for pollens and pollution and things like that. They're generally more expensive and complicated, and for my system, I just chose to have regular outside air. It's unfiltered or not conditioned in any way come in. Okay, so now you know what makeup air is. Tell all your friends, they'll be very impressed. Wow. But really, makeup air is a very important concept, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. Next time we meet for my next video, I'm going to show you some more progress as we inch closer to that fateful day when I finally bake my first loaf. So until then, go bake something.